Watch this for the next 30 minutes, and you're going to become dangerously smart. And I'm not talking about being smart in the academic sense. I'm not talking about having good grades, knowing complicated facts, or being the smartest person in the classroom. I'm talking about a completely different kind of intelligence, the kind of intelligence that makes people uncomfortable when you enter a room, the kind that allows you to recognize what people are actually doing beneath the things they say, the kind of intelligence that makes it much harder for people to lie to you, manipulate you, or control you. Most people move through life only half awake. They accept things exactly as they appear. They believe whatever they're told. They assume the world functions according to the rules they were taught growing up. And then they spend years, sometimes entire decades, wondering why their lives don't turn out the way they expected them to. And the reason is actually very simple. They're missing 7 crucial pieces of information, 7 mental shifts that completely change the way you understand people, situations, and the world around you. Once these shifts take place inside your mind, you begin to see everything differently. You become a fundamentally different person. You start recognizing patterns that other people overlook. You begin anticipating outcomes that others never see coming. You start understanding the hidden motivations behind people's behavior, motivations that most people are completely blind to. And that makes you dangerous. Not dangerous in a violent or destructive way. Dangerous in the sense that people can no longer easily play you. They can't fool you as easily. They can't control you with the same psychological tactics that work on everyone else. And the people who make a living controlling others absolutely hate encountering someone who becomes this kind of intelligent, because suddenly the tricks they depend on stop working. Now, before we go any further, I need to warn you about something. These 7 shifts are permanent. Once you understand what I'm about to reveal, you cannot simply forget it. You won't be able to unsee what you've learned. You won't be able to return to the same level of innocence you had before. You won't be able to pretend that you don't understand how certain things actually work. And that kind of knowledge comes with a price. You may begin to feel more isolated. You may feel as though you're speaking a completely different language from the people around you. You'll start noticing things that make you uncomfortable, things you would probably rather not see, but once you recognize them, you can't unknow them. So, if you want to remain innocent, if you want to continue believing that people are fundamentally good and that the world is fundamentally fair, then stop watching right here. Go back to whatever you were doing before. But if you're ready to see things clearly, if you're genuinely ready to understand how the game actually works, then keep watching. Because over the next 30 minutes, the way you think is going to change. And by the time you reach the end, you may become dangerously smart. So let's begin with the first shift. This is the foundation that everything else will be built upon, and it's also the shift that most people resist the most because it destroys something they desperately want to believe. Here it is. People don't necessarily mean what they say. They simply don't. And I'm not saying that everyone is a liar, that's not the point. What I'm saying is that words are one of the least reliable indicators of what someone actually thinks, feels, wants, or intends to do. Words can be a performance. Words can be a tool people use to manage the way you perceive them. Words are often what people say because they want something from you at that particular moment. But words alone are rarely enough to reveal the complete truth. Think about how many times someone told you they would do something and then never followed through. Think about how many times someone told you they cared about you, only to disappear later. Think about how many times someone promised they would change, yet continued behaving exactly the same way. Were they lying when they made those promises? Maybe they were, but in many cases, they probably meant it at that exact moment. They genuinely felt it at that particular time. Then the moment disappeared, the emotion changed, and eventually the words lost their meaning. Because words are cheap. Words cost almost nothing. You can say practically anything. You can promise almost anything. And most people do exactly that. They say whatever makes them look better, whatever helps them get what they want, or whatever makes the other person stop questioning them. Machiavelli understood this idea centuries ago. He wrote that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that whoever deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. What he was pointing toward is simple. People desperately want to believe words. They want to trust promises. They want to believe that when someone tells them something, that person genuinely means it. And manipulators understand this weakness. That's why they use words as a method of controlling you. They tell you exactly what you want to hear. They make promises they may have absolutely no intention of keeping, and it works because most people automatically take words at face value. Most people assume that if someone said something confidently, they must genuinely mean it. But that isn't how human behavior actually works. So what changes when you make this first mental shift? You stop focusing primarily on what people say, and you begin paying attention to what they consistently do. You stop getting impressed by promises and start studying patterns. Someone tells you they'll call you back. Do they actually call? Someone tells you that they value and respect you. Do their actions demonstrate that value? Someone tells you they're finally going to change. Do they genuinely change their behavior? Or do they simply continue repeating the same promise over and over again? When you stop automatically believing words and start believing observable behavior, everything becomes much clearer. You're no longer constantly confused. You're no longer asking yourself why someone who claims to care about you repeatedly hurts you. You simply observe the evidence. Their words are saying one thing, while their actions are communicating something completely different. And when there's a conflict between words and behavior, behavior tells you far more. But here's what most people fail to understand. This is the part that makes this mental shift incredibly powerful. Once you stop automatically believing people's words, you become much more difficult to manipulate, because a huge amount of manipulation depends on verbal communication. It's promises, it's explanations, it's excuses, it's justifications. It's someone talking their way out of responsibility and accountability. And when you stop accepting words as proof, that manipulation loses much of its power. You simply observe the pattern, you watch what they actually do, and then you make your decision based on their behavior. That can infuriate manipulators because they're accustomed to people accepting their explanations. They're accustomed to their words being enough. They're accustomed to talking their way out of consequences. But when they encounter someone who pays attention primarily to behavior, they lose that advantage. They can continue talking for hours. It doesn't matter. You're watching their actions, and their actions reveal almost everything you need to know. So that is the first shift. People may not mean what they say. Pay attention to behavior instead of becoming dependent on words. And once you genuinely internalize this idea, once you stop blindly taking everyone at their word and start observing their repeated patterns, you've taken your first major step toward becoming dangerously smart. But understanding that people don't always mean what they say still isn't enough, because you may continue wondering why they behave the way they do. Why do people make promises they never keep? Why do they say one thing and then behave completely differently? Why do people sometimes hurt the very people they claim to love? And that brings us to the second shift, the shift that can explain an enormous amount of human behavior once you truly understand it. And this one can be even more difficult to accept than the first. Here is the second shift. Everyone operates from self-interest. Everyone, no exceptions. And before you become defensive, before you start remembering all the selfless things you've personally done, or thinking about people you believe are genuinely good and generous, hear the argument first. I'm not saying that human beings are evil. I'm not saying people are incapable of caring about others. I'm saying that underneath almost every decision a person makes, there is some form of calculation. What do I get from this? Even when people are generous, even when they are kind, even when they sacrifice something for another person, there is usually something they receive from that action. Maybe it makes them feel good about themselves. Maybe it strengthens their reputation. Maybe it allows them to avoid guilt. Maybe it creates a sense of obligation. Maybe it gives them emotional satisfaction. But there is almost always something involved, and this isn't necessarily an accusation or an insult. It is simply part of how human beings function. We are wired for survival. And survival naturally involves prioritizing our own needs. Even when we help another person, that action can still serve us in some way. Maybe it supports our values. Maybe it strengthens our self-image. Maybe it aligns with the kind of person we believe ourselves to be. Maybe it protects our long-term interests, but somehow it still serves us. And once you truly understand this, Once you begin seeing human behavior through this lens, a lot of confusing behavior suddenly starts making sense. People stop appearing completely unpredictable. They become more understandable, because if you can identify what someone's self-interest is, you can often make a much better prediction about what they are likely to do. Think about someone in your own life who disappointed you. Someone who let you down. Someone who chose themselves instead of choosing you. Were you shocked? Were you deeply hurt? Did you believe they cared about you more than their actions eventually showed? Now go back and examine that same situation through the lens of self-interest. Ask yourself, what did they gain by choosing you? What would they have sacrificed by choosing you? What did they gain by choosing themselves? What would they have lost by choosing themselves? When you look at the situation objectively, their decision may suddenly become much easier to understand. They chose what they believed was best for themselves. And people often do exactly that. The reason you were hurt may not simply be because they chose themselves. You were hurt because you expected them to choose you. But why would they automatically choose you? What did they gain from doing so? What would they receive in return? If the answer is nothing, then their decision suddenly becomes much less mysterious. This isn't necessarily personal. It's part of how humans operate. Machiavelli also argued that people rarely do good unless necessity pushes them toward doing so. The idea behind this is that people may not always behave morally simply because morality matters to them internally. Often, moral behavior is strengthened when there are external incentives to behave morally. There may be social pressure, there may be legal consequences, their reputation may be at stake, other people may be watching. But when nobody is watching, when there are no consequences, and when someone believes they can get away with something, their behavior may reveal a very different set of priorities. Many people will ultimately choose what benefits them rather than what they believe is objectively right. And again, this doesn't automatically mean that people are evil. It means they are human, and humans naturally respond to incentives and self-interest. That isn't necessarily a bug in the system. It is part of the system. It is connected to survival. So what changes when you make this second mental shift? You stop being constantly surprised by people. You become less shocked when someone betrays you, because betrayal can simply be understood as one person choosing their interests over yours. And you can ask yourself, why wouldn't they? You stop automatically expecting people to sacrifice themselves for you unless there is a meaningful reason for them to do so. You stop assuming that loyalty is guaranteed. You begin understanding that loyalty often exists when both sides have something valuable to gain from maintaining the relationship. And when that relationship stops serving one side, the level of loyalty may change or disappear. At first, this perspective can sound cynical, it can sound dark, it can even feel uncomfortable, but it can also be realistic. And once you start operating with this understanding, you can make better decisions. You stop automatically trusting people who have no demonstrated reason to be trustworthy. You stop being completely shocked when someone chooses themselves. You start creating relationships around mutual value, mutual respect, and mutual benefit, rather than building everything around blind hope. And here is where this becomes especially powerful. When you understand that everyone operates from some form of self-interest, including yourself, you stop feeling guilty every time you prioritize your own needs. You stop constantly apologizing for having boundaries. You stop destroying yourself for people who would never make the same sacrifice for you. Because you begin to understand that self-interest isn't automatically selfishness. Sometimes it is simply survival. And the people who are succeeding, the people who are thriving, the people who seem to consistently move ahead in life, many of them understood this principle a long time ago. They aren't sitting around endlessly wondering why nobody appreciates everything they sacrificed. They make strategic decisions based on what actually serves them, and they don't constantly apologize for doing so because they understand something most people never fully accept. Everyone else is making their decisions based on their own interests too. They're simply honest about it. And that is the second shift. Everyone operates from self-interest. Once you understand this, people begin to make sense. Their behavior starts making sense, and you stop constantly wondering why people do the things they do. But understanding self-interest alone still leaves you vulnerable, because you might tell yourself, fine, then I'll simply work harder than everyone else. I'll become better than everyone else. I'll earn exactly what I deserve. And that brings us to the third shift. This is the shift that destroys the fairy tale you were taught as a child. It's the shift that forces you to realize that the game is not always designed to be fair. And once you truly understand it, you can't easily go back to believing in perfect merit, justice, or fairness. Here it is. Fairness is a lie. That's what they teach children. But the reality is that the world is not fair. It has never been completely fair, and it never will be. And the people who succeed are not always the people who deserve success the most. Often, they're the people who understand how to win within an unfair system. Think about every time you've watched someone less qualified get promoted ahead of someone more qualified. Think about every time you've seen someone with powerful connections succeed, while someone with genuine talent struggled to get noticed. Think about every situation where someone worked incredibly hard but received little recognition, while someone else benefited from luck and received all the attention. You probably told yourself that those situations were exceptions. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it was a temporary injustice. Maybe eventually fairness would take over. But what if it isn't an exception? What if it's actually part of the system? The world doesn't always reward hard work by itself. It rewards leverage. It rewards timing. It rewards being in the right place, surrounded by the right people, at the right moment. And sometimes it rewards people who are ruthless enough to pursue what they want without constantly waiting for permission. Machiavelli understood this completely. He wrote that the way we actually live is very different from the way we believe we ought to live, and that someone who abandons reality for an idealized version of how things should work may ultimately destroy their own chances of survival. The point is simple. If you play according to how the world should work instead of understanding how it actually works, you can end up losing. The people who constantly say, "This isn't fair, this isn't right, this isn't how things are supposed to work," often remain stuck because they are waiting for the world to become fair. They are waiting for merit to automatically matter. They're waiting for hard work to be enough. And while they're waiting, other people are playing the actual game. They're using leverage, they're building relationships, they're taking advantage of timing and opportunities, and sometimes they're willing to pursue what they want without waiting for everyone's approval. Think about how much energy you may have wasted being angry about unfairness. Think about how much time you spent thinking about someone else getting something you believed you deserved. Think about the frustration you felt because the system was broken, because things should have been different, or because someone else seemed to get ahead without earning it. All of that energy, all that anger, all that resentment, what did it actually change? Nothing. The system doesn't care that you believe it's unfair. The system rewards people who understand how it actually operates, not people who spend their lives wishing it operated differently. And once you make this shift, once you stop expecting fairness and start expecting reality, you can finally begin playing the game intelligently. You're no longer handicapping yourself with the word should. You're no longer following rules that don't actually exist. You're observing what produces results, understanding what gets rewarded, and then positioning yourself accordingly. So what changes when you make this third shift? You stop waiting for things to become fair. You stop expecting your hard work to automatically speak for itself. You stop assuming that being good at your job will always be enough. Instead, you understand that you may need leverage, you may need visibility, you may need relationships, you may need better timing. And sometimes you may need to make strategic decisions that other people consider unfair, not illegal, not immoral, but strategically intelligent. You take credit for your work instead of sitting quietly and hoping someone eventually notices. You build relationships with decision makers instead of assuming that your talent alone will guarantee recognition. You leave a job that consistently undervalues you instead of waiting forever for loyalty to magically be rewarded. You start playing the game that actually exists instead of endlessly playing the game you wish existed. And here's what nobody tells you. The people at the top, the people with money, power, influence, and access, already understand that the world isn't perfectly fair. In many cases, they've understood this for a very long time. That's one of the reasons they keep winning. They aren't necessarily playing according to the rules of fairness. They're playing according to the rules of reality. And reality can be ruthless. Reality rewards leverage. Reality rewards positioning. Reality rewards being in the right place at the right time with the right people. Reality can reward people who recognize opportunities that others are too hesitant or too principled to pursue. You can sit there and call it unfair. You can keep saying, "No, that's not how things should work." Or you can accept that this is how the system currently operates and start learning how to navigate the actual game. Because complaining about unfairness doesn't change the system. Understanding how to succeed within an unfair system can change everything. So that is the third shift. Fairness is a lie. The world often rewards leverage, timing, and strategic behavior, not merit alone. And once you genuinely accept this, you stop wasting so much energy on resentment and start using that same energy to position yourself better. But even understanding that the world is unfair doesn't fully prepare you for what comes next. Because you might think, okay, the world is unfair, but at least everyone is still playing by the same basic rules. At least we all have to obey the law. At least we all face the same limitations. And that brings us to the fourth shift, the shift that shows you that the world isn't merely unfair. Different people can be playing completely different games. Here it is. The rules don't apply equally to everyone. There are rules for ordinary people, and there are rules for powerful people, and those rules are not always the same. Ordinary people are expected to follow the rules. They have to pay their taxes, they have to arrive on time, they're expected to be polite, they have to ask for permission, they're often told to wait their turn. If they break workplace rules, they can lose their jobs. If they break laws, they can be arrested. The system constantly enforces rules on ordinary people. But powerful people? That can be a very different story. Powerful people sometimes break rules. They cut corners. They ignore regulations. They find loopholes. They bend systems to their advantage. They make promises they don't keep. And sometimes, despite all of that, the consequences are surprisingly small. Why? Because systems often affect people differently depending on the resources, connections, influence, and leverage they possess. Think about every major scandal you've ever seen. Wealthy individuals accused of manipulating taxes, politicians accused of lying under oath, executives accused of violating labor laws. Then ask yourself, what actually happened? Sometimes there was a fine. Sometimes there was a settlement. Sometimes there was a relatively small penalty compared with what was gained, and sometimes, apparently, very little happened at all. The point isn't that every powerful person breaks laws or that every wealthy person escapes consequences. The deeper point is that resources matter, connections matter, access to skilled legal representation matters, influence matters, leverage matters. If you have money, power, and the right relationships, some rules can become things you negotiate around, challenge, or navigate differently. You may have options that an ordinary person simply doesn't have. Machiavelli argued that a wise ruler should not always keep his word when keeping it could be turned against him, or when the circumstances that originally led him to make the promise no longer exist. The underlying idea is that powerful people often treat rules and commitments strategically. They follow them when doing so serves their interests, and they may attempt to change, reinterpret, or escape them when doing otherwise benefits them. This isn't necessarily some hidden conspiracy. It is a recurring feature of power. People with power have more ability to influence the systems around them. They can shape policies, negotiate exceptions, find loopholes, and use resources that less powerful people don't possess. So what changes when you make this fourth shift? You stop handicapping yourself by assuming that everyone is operating under identical circumstances. You stop being the only person trying to play perfectly fair in a situation where others may be using every legitimate advantage available to them. You stop believing that following every rule automatically makes you morally superior. Because successful people aren't necessarily following every rule blindly. They understand which rules have serious consequences and which situations require strategic judgment. This does not mean you should become a criminal. It does not mean you should hurt people, break laws, or abandon your morals. It means you should stop being naive about the environment you're operating in. Stop assuming that simply being a rule follower automatically guarantees success. Being predictable can make you easier to control. And here's the dangerous part of this shift. Once you recognize that rules and consequences are not always distributed equally, you have to make an important decision. Do you continue following every limitation that holds you back while other people take advantage of every legitimate opportunity available to them? Or do you become more strategic about understanding which rules truly matter, which boundaries are non-negotiable, and where you have room to act differently? Most people struggle with this question. They want to believe they are good people, and they've been taught that good people follow rules. But Machiavelli would argue that blindly following rules that nobody else respects can leave you at a disadvantage. The problem isn't that being good is wrong. The problem is believing that goodness alone will protect you in a world where incentives, power, and strategy also matter. Rules can create order, but rules can also be used to control behavior. And once you understand that, you can no longer return to blindly accepting every rule without questioning its purpose, its consequences, and who benefits from it. So that is the fourth shift. The rules don't apply equally to everyone. Powerful people can sometimes bend systems and avoid consequences that ordinary people cannot. And once you recognize this, you understand that blindly following every rule can sometimes mean voluntarily giving away your ability to act strategically. But understanding that different people can operate under different rules still doesn't prepare you for the next shift. Because even if you understand that the world is unfair and that power can distort the rules, you might still believe you can completely trust the people around you. You may think you know who your genuine friends are. You may believe you can easily recognize who is truly on your side. And that brings us to the fifth shift, the shift that can make you question almost everyone. Here it is. Your enemies can pretend to be your friends. The people who eventually hurt you aren't always strangers. They aren't always obvious enemies. Sometimes they're the people smiling at you, the people telling you they have your back, the people acting as though they genuinely care about you. Because that is how betrayal works. You cannot really be betrayed by someone you already recognize as an enemy. Betrayal requires trust. And the people who want to take something from you, compete against you, undermine you, or gain an advantage over you, understand that. So they get close, they act friendly, they learn your weaknesses, they observe your habits, they discover what matters to you. They wait for the right opportunity, and then they act. And you never saw it coming, because you believed they were on your team. Think about every time you've experienced betrayal, every time someone you trusted suddenly turned against you. Were they obvious enemies before that happened? Usually not. They were friends, they were colleagues, they were people you helped, they were people you trusted, they were people you believed were loyal. And then, suddenly they weren't. And you were shocked because you never expected it. But here's the uncomfortable part. The signs may have been there all along. You simply didn't want to recognize them, because recognizing those signs would have forced you to accept something painful, that someone you trusted might actually be a threat to your interests. And most people would rather remain comfortable and blind than confront a truth that destroys their sense of security. But staying blind doesn't protect you, it simply makes you easier to target. Machiavelli wrote about how simple people can be, and how a deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived. The deeper point is that human beings naturally want to trust. They want to believe that the people around them are genuine, loyal, and honest. And that desire to trust can become a vulnerability when you fail to pay attention to behavior, patterns, incentives, and warning signs. They want to believe that the people they call friends are genuinely their friends. They want to believe that the people around them are being truthful and sincere, and deceivers understand this perfectly. They know that trust can become a powerful weakness when it is placed in the wrong hands. So they use that trust against you, they get close to you, they learn your secrets, they discover what matters most to you. They figure out your insecurities, your weaknesses, your fears, and the things you care about protecting. Then they take all of that information and use it to their advantage. They may use it to take something from you, compete with you, undermine you, or sabotage your progress. And the entire time, they're smiling. The entire time, they're behaving as though they're your friend, because that is exactly why the disguise works. If someone openly showed you that they were against you, you would protect yourself. But when someone acts like they care about you, you lower your guard. So what changes when you make this fifth shift? You stop trusting people simply because they're friendly toward you. You stop automatically assuming that someone who smiles at you is on your side. Instead, you begin watching patterns. Does this person genuinely celebrate your victories, or do they seem uncomfortable whenever you succeed? Do they support you only when supporting you costs them nothing? Or do they remain supportive even when doing so becomes inconvenient for them? Do they protect the things you tell them in confidence? Or does private information somehow keep finding its way back to other people in ways that hurt you? Once you stop taking friendliness at face value and start looking for actual loyalty, you begin seeing who is genuine and who is simply performing. And the uncomfortable truth is that many people are performing. Here is the hardest part of this shift. You begin realizing that you cannot automatically trust most people, not because every person is evil, but because when the stakes become high enough, many people will choose themselves over you. Many people can smile at you while simultaneously competing with you. Many people can call themselves your friend until being your friend starts costing them something. And once you understand this, you become extremely selective about who receives your trust. You become selective about what information you reveal. You become selective about who gets access to your private life, your weaknesses, your plans, and your emotions. Because you understand something important. Proximity creates vulnerability. The closer someone gets to you, the more information they have about you. And the more they know about you, the more opportunities they have to hurt you if they ever decide to use that information against you. And not everyone deserves that level of access. Some people may appear friendly while secretly competing with you. Some may smile while waiting for an opportunity to gain an advantage. So that is the fifth shift. Your enemies can pretend to be your friends. The people capable of betraying you may not be strangers standing outside your life. They may be people who are already close to you. And once you understand that, you become much more careful about who you allow into your inner circle. But even knowing that some of the people around you might not have your best interests at heart doesn't completely protect you. Because you might think, okay, then I'll simply become stronger, I'll toughen myself up, I won't show anyone my weaknesses. And that brings us to the sixth shift. This one is about what can happen when you actually do reveal weakness. And this shift is brutal. Here it is. Weakness invites attack. The world often tells you that vulnerability is brave. It tells you that showing your struggles makes you more human. It tells you that asking for help is a form of strength. And in a perfect world, perhaps that would always be true. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where some people are looking for opportunities to gain an advantage. And people who behave like predators don't necessarily respect vulnerability. They may exploit it. When you reveal weakness to the wrong person, you aren't necessarily creating a deeper connection. You may be showing them exactly where you can be hurt. You are giving them information about what affects you emotionally. You are revealing what scares you. You are showing them what makes you insecure. And you may be giving them a map of how they could potentially manipulate, control, or hurt you. And some people, not everyone, but some people, will absolutely use that information against you. Think about a time when you opened up to someone about a fear or an insecurity. You trusted them enough to reveal something deeply personal. Then later, during an argument or a difficult situation, that exact weakness was brought back and used against you. They knew it would hurt because you had already told them that it would hurt. You gave them the weapon. You showed them where you were vulnerable. And they remembered it until the moment they could use that knowledge against you. That is what can happen when you become vulnerable with the wrong person. Your honesty can become ammunition. Your openness can become a weakness. And in a highly competitive environment, vulnerability can sometimes be punished. Not necessarily because everyone is evil, but because people can be strategic. If someone believes they can gain an advantage by attacking the place where you are weakest, some people will take that opportunity. Machiavelli famously argued that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. The underlying idea is that people often respect strength more consistently than they respect vulnerability. When people know that crossing your boundaries will have consequences, they become more careful around you. They think twice before betraying you. They become less willing to test your limits. But when people perceive you as weak, when they believe you won't defend yourself, and when they believe you'll simply absorb whatever they do while continuing to remain agreeable, they may have less incentive to treat you with respect. Weakness can invite disrespect. Weakness can invite exploitation. Weakness can invite attack, not from everyone, but from enough people that you need to be careful about what you reveal and to whom. So what changes when you make this sixth shift? You stop oversharing. You stop telling everyone about your problems. You stop constantly looking for sympathy from people who haven't earned your trust. You begin understanding that not everyone genuinely cares about your struggles. Some people may be indifferent, while others may remember the information and potentially use it later. You become more guarded. You share your struggles only with people who have demonstrated through their actions that they can be trusted with that information, and that group is usually very small. With most people, you maintain your composure. You demonstrate strength. You demonstrate competence. You communicate through your behavior that taking advantage of you will have consequences. Not because you want to be cruel, not because you want to intimidate everyone around you, but because you understand that when you are surrounded by people who may exploit weakness, constantly presenting yourself as an easy target is dangerous. And here's what this looks like in real life. You don't spend your entire workday complaining about your problems at the office. You work on solving them quietly. You don't announce every insecurity you have. You work on those insecurities privately. You don't broadcast every failure. You learn from your failures, improve, and move forward. Because every time you publicly display a weakness to the wrong audience, you may be giving other people information they can use against you. You may be lowering how seriously they take you. You may be giving competitors an unnecessary advantage. You may be making yourself an easier target. And the people who consistently succeed, the people who continue thriving despite difficult circumstances, often understand this principle. They keep many of their struggles private. They present strength publicly, not because they never struggle, not because their lives are perfect, but because they understand that not everyone deserves access to their vulnerable side. So that is the sixth shift. Weakness can invite attack. The world doesn't always reward vulnerability. Sometimes it punishes vulnerability when it is revealed to the wrong people. And once you understand this, you become extremely careful about what you reveal and who you reveal it to. But even after understanding all six of these shifts, even after beginning to see the world through a much clearer lens, there is still one final shift. And this one is the biggest of them all. It is the shift that connects everything together. It determines whether you remain a victim of these realities or whether you learn how to use your understanding of reality to improve your position. And this is the shift that separates people who understand the game from people who actually play the game. Here it is. You are in a game whether you choose to play or not. Some people believe that by refusing to play games, refusing to be strategic, refusing to compete and simply trying to remain authentic, they are somehow above everything. They tell themselves they aren't playing dirty. They aren't manipulating anyone. They're simply being genuine and hoping that being a good person will be enough. But here is the uncomfortable truth. You are already in the game. Whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, other people are playing. Other people are being strategic. Other people are positioning themselves. Other people are building alliances. Other people are competing for opportunities. Other people are protecting their interests. And if you refuse to do any of those things, you aren't necessarily remaining neutral. You may simply be losing. Because refusing to participate doesn't remove you from the game. It can simply turn you into a piece on someone else's board instead of making you a player on your own. Think about your workplace. Do you honestly think the people who consistently get promoted are always the people who quietly do the best work and then sit back hoping someone eventually notices? Or are they often the people who make sure their contributions are visible? So what changes when you make this seventh shift? You stop pretending that you aren't in competition. You stop acting as though being nice and working hard is automatically a complete strategy. You become intentional. You begin thinking about how people perceive you. You begin thinking about which relationships you're building. You begin thinking about which opportunities you're positioning yourself for. You begin thinking several moves ahead. You start playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. You begin understanding that every interaction can either strengthen your position or weaken it. You stop being passive. You stop waiting for life to simply happen to you. You start creating opportunities, not through aggression, not through pretending to be someone you're not through manipulation, but through strategy. You understand that you are part of a game, And games have winners and losers. Refusing to participate doesn't automatically make you noble. Sometimes it simply means you're choosing to lose. And here is the most important part of this shift. Once you accept that you are in a game, you stop feeling guilty for acting strategically. You stop believing that positioning yourself automatically makes you a bad person. You stop apologizing for prioritizing yourself because you realize that other people are doing the same thing. They simply may not admit it. They are playing the game while pretending they aren't playing. You are playing the game while being honest with yourself about what you are doing. And that can make you dangerous because you aren't confused anymore. You aren't constantly conflicted. You can see the board, you can see the pieces, you can see the possible moves, and you can make decisions based on what actually works instead of what you wish would work. So that is the seventh shift. You are in a game whether you play or not. And refusing to play can simply mean that other people are playing you. Once you truly understand this, you can't easily return to being passive. You can't return to simply hoping that everything will somehow work out. You have to become a player. You have to become more strategic. You have to understand the game you're in and figure out how to navigate it intelligently, because the alternative is spending your entire life watching other people move ahead while you remain stuck, constantly wondering why everyone else seems to be progressing while you're standing still. And the answer may be very simple. They're playing. You aren't. And games don't reward people simply because they refuse to participate. They reward people who understand how to play effectively. So now you have all 7 shifts. Let's bring everything together. People don't always mean what they say. Watch behavior. Everyone operates from self-interest, including you. Fairness is not guaranteed. The world rewards leverage. The rules don't apply equally to everyone. Powerful people can sometimes bend systems in ways ordinary people cannot. Your enemies can pretend to be your friends. Trust carefully. Weakness can invite attack. Be selective about what you reveal and to whom. You are in a game whether you play or not, so learn to act strategically. These 7 shifts have been working on your thinking throughout the last 30 minutes. You see the world differently now. You see people differently. You may even see yourself differently. And once you truly internalize these ideas, it becomes difficult to return to complete naivety. You can't simply go back to not knowing what you now recognize. And here's what I need you to understand. This kind of knowledge can make you feel lonely, because you may start looking around and realizing that many people don't see the world the way you now see it. Many people are still operating according to the assumptions they were taught. They still believe that people always mean what they say. They still believe the world will eventually reward everyone fairly. They still believe that simply following every rule is enough. They still believe that everyone who calls themselves a friend is genuinely loyal. They still believe that showing every weakness automatically creates deeper connection. And they still believe they aren't participating in a game. And you may not be able to explain all of this to them because they may not be ready to hear it. They may not want to see it. They may prefer comfort over uncomfortable truth. They may want to continue believing in the simpler version of reality. And if you try to wake them up, they may call you cynical. They may call you negative. They may call you dark. Because to people who desperately want to remain comfortable, seeing reality clearly can look like negativity. But you aren't necessarily negative. You're becoming realistic. You aren't necessarily cynical. You're becoming informed. You aren't necessarily dark. You're becoming dangerous. And dangerous is exactly what you need to become. Not dangerous in a violent or destructive sense, but dangerous in the sense that you are difficult to deceive. Because being dangerous means people can't easily lie to you. They can't easily manipulate you. They can't easily control you. You can see the game. You can see the players. You can see the moves. And now you have a choice. Will you use this knowledge simply to protect yourself? Or will you use it to improve your position and win your own game? Will you always play defense? Or will you learn how to take initiative? Will you simply avoid other people's traps? Or will you become capable of creating strategies of your own? That decision is yours. But what you cannot do is return to the exact mindset you had before understanding these shifts. Something has changed. You see more clearly now. So here is my challenge to you. Look at your life right now through the lens of these 7 shifts. Who in your life consistently says one thing but does something completely different? Who in your life appears to care about you while repeatedly acting according to their own interests? Where in your life are you expecting fairness that may never come automatically? Which rules are you following that other people are finding ways around? Who in your life appears to be a friend but may actually be competing with you? Where are you revealing weaknesses that other people are taking advantage of? And finally, what game are you involved in that you have been refusing to play? Answer these questions honestly, because your answers may reveal exactly why you are where you are today and what you need to change if you want to get somewhere different. And if these 7 shifts genuinely change the way you think, if you see the world differently now than you did 30 minutes ago, write in the comments, "I see it now." Let's find out how many people are ready to stop being pieces on someone else's board and start becoming players in their own lives. Let's see how many people are ready to stop being naive and start seeing clearly, because the world doesn't need more people who blindly trust every word they hear. It needs more people who can recognize reality, people who understand how things actually work, people who can think strategically, people who can protect themselves, people who can build their own position in a world that may never be perfectly fair. That is what becoming dangerously smart really means, and if you made it all the way to this point, then you're ready to see things more clearly. Welcome to a different way of looking at the world. It can feel lonely, but it can also be incredibly powerful. And don't forget to watch the next video, because what comes next may be even more important than you realize. I'll see you there. The people who build relationships with decision makers, the people who position themselves for opportunities, the people who make deliberate career moves, they're playing. And if you refuse to play, you may become the person they play around. You may become the person who gets overlooked, the person who gets passed over, the person who gets blindsided, the person who eventually asks, "Why does this keep happening to me when I did everything right?" And the answer may be that you did everything right according to the rules you believed existed, but those may not have been the actual rules. The actual rules are simple: be strategic or be used. Play the game or become a piece in someone else's game. Machiavelli wrote about the need to be both a fox and a lion, a fox capable of recognizing traps and a lion capable of frightening away threats. The idea is that you need 2 different forms of intelligence. You need the ability to see what is happening around you. You need to recognize the game being played. You need to notice the traps. You need to identify manipulation. You need to understand strategy. That is the fox. But you also need enough strength, confidence, courage, and strategic ability to avoid becoming a victim of those traps. That is the lion. You cannot simply be intelligent. You cannot simply recognize what is happening. You also need to be willing to defend yourself. You need to be willing to respond. You need to be willing to create your own strategy. You need to be willing to use the same level of awareness that other people may already be using against you. Because if you can see the game but refuse to participate in it, you may still lose. You'll simply be losing while fully aware of what is happening.